Welcome to the Right Moves, where we go over every single episode of My Hero Academia. Today, season 7, episode 1 to 5.
It's a good show.
Great show. People are complaining about season 7.
No
I
spoilers.
think it's one of the best seasons ever. It's
No
freaking
spoilers.
fantastic.
Oh yeah.
No spoilers. I
Is it the
just think
most?
it's passionate, it's filled, it's great. I'm loving the whole thing. Okay. But no, that's not what the show's about. The show is about making the right moves in the times that we have in order to make the most amount of money for the most amount of security to protect our family or ourselves. Peter, it's been since Donald Trump has been elected, or since he was inaugurated, it's been a roller coaster ride. I thought it was a roller coaster ride before that, for the 2 years before that. And then I also thought it was a roller coaster ride the 4 years before that. You remember when they locked us all down? I
Wait,
thought that was pretty
what?
intense. When that was pretty intense, and this is arguably more intense than that.
Really?
Because when I think back to the times of when I was locked down in COVID, I just felt like calm and peaceful, and I could just look at my Twitter feed and enjoy my time at home, and
What
don't have to
calm
go
and
anywhere.
peaceful? What was calm and peaceful about it?
I didn't have to go anywhere to do anything.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there was that. There was
So
not.
there was terror,
But you're in your house, so
but
as long as you didn't leave your house, you felt safe.
and Amazon still worked.
Yeah.
I could still get stuff delivered, and I was like, oh, okay. Crypto was going to all-time highs. Comparatively, a lot of crypto people, if they could switch right now to COVID lockdowns and crypto highs, I think they take that. They take that in a second. Where's Gain of Fauci when we need him? Come on, let's get another round up there.
Oh my God.
Okay, so we got the algorithm. It knows where we need to be now.
Yeah, it's just
What's
gonna
right.
down rank us.
We need to be in the Jimmy Dore sort of Kurt Metzger sort of track.
Never show
We
up
gotta
on
get
anywhere.
away from
Yeah,
the breaking points.
totally.
The what's the other one? Pac-Man majority reports.
All we have to do is say, "I support Ukraine." Now we're back on top.
That's right.
Back up, whatever it takes, for as long as it takes. World War III, who cares?
Peter, fighting World War III saves us from an even darker fate. All right, so the strategic Bitcoin reserve. I didn't really realize that people thought they're going to announce the strategic Bitcoin reserve, and then that's it. Bottoms in for the crypto markets. We're off to the races. We're going to all-time highs because, hey, if the U.S. government is going to be buying Bitcoin, everyone's going to want to front run that as soon as possible.
I agree. That's what I think. I don't know why Bitcoin is doing so poorly. Right now, Bitcoin is at 82.8. I think this is ridiculous. And I feel like people are not responding to the overwhelmingly positive signal that Donald Trump put out by creating this Bitcoin reserve. Something is wrong. The market's being manipulated. It should be up to the moon right now. Tell me why not.
Well, what's wrong and what can be rectified is that Kamala should have been president, and then when she is in 2028, crypto is going to be all on the highest. No, so what's wrong is that first of all, just on the surface of it, if you guys go take a look at the Traders Post video that I did last Friday, hey, with Peter, on Traders Post, I forgot you're in that you stood in for Mike. We talked about and showed video of like that the strategic Bitcoin reserve is just to hold Bitcoin and other crypto assets that government has already seized. So they're not even buying anything at the moment, right? And I'm fine with that. That's totally fine. If they said all of a sudden, okay, now we're going to implement on the plan, and we're already have all the things in the works, and we're going to be buying $2 billion worth of Bitcoin every week, and they spin that up and start it right away, I'd be like, okay, this is the whole scheme. This is all planned, and Bitcoin is MI6, Mossad, intelligence, CIA. And finally, they turned the screws loose on this thing. The fact that they're like, not only we're just going to announce this, Trump was like, hey, XRP, Sol, ADA, we got you covered. And then later on, they're like, oh, excuse me, also Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then David Sachs, CryptoZar, comes on, I believe it was CNBC, and he says, he just said those things because they're like the top on the like list of coin market cap. They didn't even consult with any of the people. I go, this is exactly what I want. I want to sort of like fly by the seat of the pants. We feel the wind shifting towards Bitcoin. Let's just say Bitcoin stuff out there. That's great. Um, and then the other point, and David Sachs even mentioned this. Is it David Sachs? Yeah, I think it's
Those are.
him. They don't even know where all the crypto is. Like,
What
if
do you
you
mean?
think that the crypto that the government has, it's sitting on a Trezor device inside of Fort Knox, and they just need to be able to connect that to the systems in order to make everything work. That's not the case. Apparently, it looks like these cryptos are just all over the place in all kinds of different departments.
What?
With who God knows who's controlling them. USB sticks over here.
Why don't they
I
just
wouldn't be surprised
buy?
if someone has the 24 word key seed phrase on their computer screen and they got fired because of Doge, and no one even knows where the seed phrase is. It'd be just like the government to be like, "Hey, we we just accidentally locked $12 billion worth of Bitcoin. Who do we contact in order to fix this? Nobody." Uh, I wouldn't be surprised. So they're not buying crypto yet. Okay, the whole point of the strategic reserve, the whole win of it, has nothing to do if the government buys it. Peter, it has nothing to do with whether the government buys it. What it matters is that the government feels like they need to say that they will. Okay, Bitcoin people, Bitcoin maxis, you won. You won. You got the president of the United States who's saying, hey, we got to take a strong look at this crypto thing. So you know what that does with all the other countries? Just like you guys have been teaching us this whole time, game theory wise, Max Kaiser wise, that they're going to have to buy it too. Now, the other countries that don't have an aspiring monarch or whatever is going on over there, not that I'm against monarchy, but that's what it seems like is the case. Who knows? Did you hear Donald Trump's son wants to maybe run for president in 2028?
No.
Yeah. So
Which one? Which
fine.
son?
Eric. I think it's
Really?
Eric or Don. One of them. The one who talks all the time.
Okay.
Fine. Whatever. But other countries that don't have those types of leaders who are also saying that they're going to have to deal with, they might have to use Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, they will buy. And they don't have necessarily a bunch of cryptos on some USB keys floating around some desk somewhere.
Well,
They
they
probably
might
have
have some crypto billionaires that can Jack Ma. You can
Well,
disappear
that
'em.
was one of the things for the seeing that when I saw the what is it, the mugshots of all the people who are part of the White House Crypto Summit. Brian Armstrong, Robinhood CEO, the David Sachses, all these different people, Michael Saylor. I go, okay, so these are the crypto barons, right? These are we're talking about, right? These are. I mean, you don't get to that spot without breaking a few skulls here, making a few enemies. They're at the top there. Plus, they didn't have our boy Charles Hoskinson there.
Well, I mean, why would he be there? He's anti the government being in crypto, no?
Well, even if that wasn't the case, they weren't even trying to make a show of, hey, let's do this to make sure we're inclusive of the whole thing. They're just like,
I think they got the club in, and Charles is not part of the
right,
club.
right. So that means the opposing team. I mean, I'm saying that loosely. I'm not trying to put all the Bitcoin maxis in there. I'm talking about the people who are out there CEOing and billionairing all over the place about Bitcoin. These are the people not to be trusted. Like, these are the people that Bitcoin was set up in order to fight against, the whole oligarch system, the whole native financial system. Like, why on earth the people who are gung ho of integrating the cancerous financial system with the cure? I'm not, let's spread the cancer. I'm not even sure why people are praising these people. The whole idea is that the system would work through incentives on its own, and Joe Blow can have just as much say or as power as anybody else. But no, it turns out.
But that's impossible.
Well, I understand that's impossible. I'm just saying that the idea, the pitch for Bitcoin is that it would take over the world and overtake and become the new financial system.
And you don't see governments buying into it as part of that overtaking?
Well, it's both forces at once. There's the force of overtaking, and then the other force that they don't want to be overtook.
But that's destiny.
Yeah. So the people who are out there representing Bitcoin and crypto inside of this summit are clearly on the side of the opposing force. They're not. They say they're pro crypto, but that's exactly what I would expect from villains.
Well, okay, but don't the majority of the population, they're not even paying attention to crypto. They don't
Right.
own it. They don't understand it.
Yes.
That's not going to change grassroots. It has to, at some point, become at the top. And then people wake up to, hey, what is this thing that the government is doing? Then they understand what crypto is. And then they kick out the barons or whatever.
Sure, but what I'm saying, where we are at the moment. Actually, let me put it in terms I think you might understand. These people who are
When a
representing
mama and a
crypto on the
dad love
behalf of
each.
people
Sorry.
to the American government are like the Nazgul.
Okay, could you repeat that? I was talking over you. Start over.
The people who are representing crypto on behalf of the population to the American government are like the Nazgul, right? Before they start donning their big wraiths and all these sort of things, their wing beast, they come as bearers of gifts, presenting the 5 and the 7 and the 3,
The rings of
right?
power.
The rings of power, and the dwarves put on the rings of lust and greed, and the men put on the men were the ring wraiths, but they're given these. They're speaking on behalf of the people with this promise of goodness, but the people aren't there. It's a bunch of billionaires and powerful people. So Alabaz, don't believe anything that they're saying, that they're really on behalf of the people. They're there to make money for themselves, which is totally fair. That's what they're there for. And the fact that they don't have Bilbo Baggins in the mix, Charles Hoskinson, they didn't invite him over, means that they're not looking, they're not interested in that, in really incorporating everybody within the crypto space, which is fine. But all that to say, the liquidity is not starting now. The game theory is in practice. The play's there. The pitch now for $1 million Bitcoin to me now makes way more sense, way more sense, and that's a 5, 10-year, 20-year game. I'm not saying to a million. I'm just saying the upward trajectory. So the floor is in, people. I mean, as far as like overall, like can Bitcoin go to zero? I don't know. Even Peter Schiff was like sort of like devil's advocate on Twitter, making the case. Well, Bitcoin, I could understand why they would put it in, but why would they put these other coins? Well, we're chipping away at Schiff, buddy. We're chipping away at Shiffy. So it's making headway.
Well, this is probably the best case scenario if you believe in crypto because you can see directionally where it's going to go pretty solidly, but the price is still low.
It's low, $83,000 low, right?
Yeah, I mean, buy, right?
Well, so that's the thing. So the question is here, and that's what I want to shift over here to, is the idea of do we have the cycle top and are we headed to the cycle low? So just as a quick aside here, people have to understand that there are multiple cycles at work at any given time within the economy and the financial markets. With the business cycle, the debt cycle, the liquidity cycle, and the inventory cycle. So if I were to ask Peter about the inventory cycle, what do you think that involves?
Well, there's expectation. So people who have to fill up their inventory, they have to buy before the demand is there. And so there's this, it's like a leading indicator for
Right.
something else.
Exactly. So you have this whole manufacturing process. I'm very good, Peter. You have this whole manufacturing process where you actually have to like mine or grow or collect the raw materials, pass it through through manufacturing, refinement, through production, goes into wholesalers, to retailers, to your kitchen sink, right? So the whole process. And that process is driven by the demand at the end by the consumer requesting those goods. And the demand has to be consistent and long enough and like last long enough so that the signal actually gets to the beginning of the chain so that they change their practices in order to move forward. And once inventories get packed to a certain degree, there's only a limit to how much an inventory, how much people can pre buy something, how they could store it. Once that happens, then there's a cap. Then the orders that, even though the demand might still be there, the orders that the retailer and the wholesaler are making, the orders up the chain diminish. And so the people further up the chain, they get to see, hey, there's less demand coming in. I'm going to start laying off people. I'm going to start mining less. I'm going to start growing less and that sort of thing until things calm down, because they need to, they have risk on the line. They're putting their money, their time, their capital on the line. So they have to slow that down, and that slowdown then gets reflected later on down the train. It moves forward, and then the inventories start to diminish. They're not filling up the inventories. The inventories are starting to diminish. The demand starts to weaken. They start laying off people. They lay off people. Less people have money to buy stuff, and we get down to the a low end of a cycle. And when that gets down to the lowest, then the demand starts picking up a little bit as people are like, "Hey, I haven't had this for a while," and then the signal starts being sent back to the beginning, and you have this whole thing happen over and over again. It takes about 5 to 10 years for this. Well, sorry, no, it takes less than time than that, but basically that cycle ebbs and flows and ebbs and flows, and it could be exacerbated. There could be headwinds or tailwinds depending on what happens. Right? There's uh, uh, a year of frost for wheat or rice in one location, in some major location more than before. That decreases the output, which causes the demand to increase, and it could have all these sort of imbalances within the system. But generally speaking, that's how it goes. That's for the inventory cycle. The business cycle. So the inventory cycle is almost one of the lowest cycles you could be on, and then you have the business cycle, which is the overall of all the different cycles. I haven't touched on liquidity and debt yet because I'm going to get on that in a second. But you have this business cycle, which is this 5 to 10 year period, which has to do all about the inventory systems, the employment schedules, the government spending, production of a nation, and you can imagine that all this also goes through cycles in the same way like the weather does, right? So you get this build up of production, and then it peaks out where, hey, we're not increasing our production anymore. Maybe government spending comes in order to boost it a little bit more. Then there's only a limit to how much more that can boost. It plateaus. People have more, have maxed out on their capacity, and now bankruptcies start happening, or the revenues start falling as people can consume a certain amount. Right? If you wanted to buy a table, well, you're not going to buy 5 tables in a year.
Right.
So if anyone who's going to buy the table bought the tables and replace the table for anything else that you want, eventually they get to the point where they consume what they needed to consume. The demand starts falling, and then that moves up the chain, and you have this whole cycle that happens. So the business cycle happens in that state. The key component of this business cycle that matters to us as crypto heads, that has nothing to do with inventory, right? This is one of the interesting things about crypto, about Bitcoin specifically, and that even though people compare it to gold, gold does have, in a sense, an inventory cycle,
Right.
right? Because you actually have to mine and store the gold, and then there's uses beyond just store of wealth or even a medium of exchange, if that's what you're doing, for industrial use and jewelers. So this ebb and flow as you find more gold. It's the time it takes for it to be refined and processed. There's this whole ebb and flow that happens within the gold cycle that doesn't happen within the crypto cycle, like as far as inventory is concerned. What does affect that is debt and liquidity, right? So liquidity, that is the dollars that are flowing throughout the system. And so America, because it's the world reserve currency, one of their main exports, their main export is dollars, right? Little dollars, the currency that you work for day by day. And the availability of those changes how people behave. Just like if you felt like, hey, I have an overabundance of money, like my pay is secure, my job is secure, I just got a raise, I'm getting more money in, you have a higher propensity to spend. You might take a vacation if you haven't before. You might take a better vacation or a longer vacation if you have more money to spend. You might decide to have more kids if you decide to get more money in. Your behavior will change depending on how much liquidity you have access to. Not just your net money, but how much money you expect to get. Right? And this will affect how much risk you're willing to take. When the economy is doing well, that when the debt cycle is starting off, people feel like they can get a loan, they can start a new business. They can see demand is out there because people want to spend, and they might actually try to start a new business, create a new product, create a new service, or what have you, because there's a higher risk appetite. And then as more and more people succeed in that, it causes people who are on the sidelines, hey, maybe I'll start a business too, because those two people started a business and it worked. I'll start one too. But then you get down to the point where the 10th person, the 20th person says, hey, I want to start a business too. I'm going to be the late adopter over here. And it's too late because they've already taken all the demand out there, or all the people who are going to lend as much as they have capacity to, and that sort of thing. So demand comes down, lending goes down, and then you have defaults that start happening, bankruptcies and defaults that start happening. So in the debt cycle, you accumulate debt as you first start, and then it peaks out and you move down. And in that down cycle, you get a bunch of bankruptcies and liquidations. So this causes a debt cycle, which is part of the whole business cycle. And crypto does have a little bit of that. You can leverage crypto, and so you have these liquidations cycles that people take too much risk and get over levered, and then you have this deleveraging effect. So the final thing I want to say here is then the liquidity cycle. So the liquidity cycle is the mechanism by which new dollars, new currencies are issued into the global economy. And that happens through there's only certain entities that can actually make dollars. So new dollars get created by banks. So any type of lending that happens, if you lend somebody $1,000, that debt on your book is still 1,000. You're owed 1,000. That's worth money. That's so you get an interest payment for that. But that person has $1,000 now that they can spend. Right? They have $1,000 more than existed before. Yeah. And then when they circulate that money to other people, those people are also using it for their own lendings and debts and loans and all that, and it generates more and more new dollars from the initial dollars. We've all learned this from the fractional reserve system. And so these cycles happen, you can see them because it's the currency markets, right? You're seeing the currency fluctuate against each other in this aggregate way where you get to see what the liquidity cycle is like. So I just wanted to pull up here real quick a liquidity indicator that was made by a lot of people are sharing around, but this particular one is made by Mike Christensen from Trader Post and improved, I think, just slightly modified by me. So we have here the global liquidity index. So this purple line represents net liquidity. So as it ebbs and flows, the higher this goes, the more liquidity is being injected into the system, and the lower it goes, the more liquidity is being pulled back. This is caused by printing of money or contraction of money from central banks, from regular banks, through lending through sovereign nations, through financial institutions, through anything that produces debt and loans or currency. And you get this ebb and flow. And if you were to compare that, let's say we were to compare that to SPY, you'll notice here how it looks pretty similar, doesn't it, Peter?
Yeah.
Because
I've learned from Mike that you can put squiggly lines and make them look and compare them, make them look like they're the same, but they're not necessarily true.
Well, it's pretty hard. Even a child can see that these lines are pretty well correlated, right? So this is the S&P, one of the stock market indexes, where we get this correlation. And when we compare it to Bitcoin, you'll notice we also get something similar over here. But what's interesting about Bitcoin is that it seems to respond even sooner to liquidity, in a sense. So if I were to offset this...
Is this because the inventory cycle doesn't affect it?
Well, yeah, so the inventory cycle doesn't affect it, and so it responds far quicker to liquidity conditions. It's almost like a cork on the top of a river, and as the river increases or decreases in liquidity, that cork moves up and down. And so you can see here that I have this offset, and it's showing us here this peak matches this peak over here, this peak matches this peak over here. We have these consolidation levels, consolidation over here. This move up matches this move up. So it's pretty good. It's not exactly one for one, but it gives you a good idea. So we can see here that if we were to project out liquidity, the liquidity projected out shows that we're going to go up and to the right for liquidity. Right?
Right.
So the chances are that we're at the low, that we are headed towards a cycle low. So if I put this on here, put wave on, you'll see that our cycle low Let's do it like this. So do you see here how, let's change this to logarithmic, how Bitcoin generally ends up at the bottom of this orange level at the cycle lows?
Yeah.
Well, the next cycle low that we have coming up right now, the earliest is around 40,000. So the
Oof.
idea is, are we going to fall? Are we headed towards 40,000, which is another 50% down? Right, we're about 20 something, 29, 20, yeah, around, no, 25% down, sort of. So the idea is going to head lower. Okay,
That,
so then we have to make
that
a
would
case for it.
that would be great news.
If we headed to the cycle low,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that way, but people who are holding millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, they don't feel that way.
Yeah, but I mean, if your time horizon is super short, then yeah. But if you're expecting it to go up, I wanna get as much Bitcoin as I can at that lower price.
I understand. And if I had my tools, I would have been buying around here,
Right.
but I didn't have my tools. Same thing over here, same thing over here. I just didn't know these things. So it's after losing a bunch of money that I realized I have to make these things in order to surface this information, bring us to almost so far to the highs that we had before here.
So what makes you think? Oh, you were making the case. You were saying making the case about it retouching that orange line.
Yeah. So the question is, are we headed towards the cycle low? That's the question. Now, in never, we could always end up hitting a COVID thing like this where it falls off the edge and moves back up, and then how are you going to plan for that? Um, unless you're Dr. Fauci, you don't know that the cycle lows like that are coming. Maybe that's one of them type of thing.
I'm beginning to suspect you've got beef.
All right, so that's a global dollar liquidity. So let's take a look at the business cycle, at a proxy for the business cycle. So if we take a look at the Purchasers Manager Index, which is let's do it over here. So the Purchasing Managers Index is a survey that's run on manufacturers who are smack dab in the middle of the inventory cycle. Remember, there's people all the way, the miners, the growers, and all that at the beginning of the chain. And then it moves towards like chemical processing, refinement, smelting, metallurgy, all that stuff, and then it heads off to the manufacturing, where they're actually creating some of the base items, or the specific items that will be sold by retailers and wholesalers, then to retailers. So they're smack dab in the middle. And if you do a survey for them, they're not only getting an idea of what the demand is from the regular consumer, they're also getting an idea of the orders that they're actually passing up the chain. Whereas if you go further up the chain, they don't have an idea of the demand at the end, and the demand at the end has no idea, how much chemicals they're buying at the chemical factory in order to make whatever. So the manufacturers are great for that, and the Institute of Supply Management tracks this. So if we take a look at this, let's take a look at it on the weekly. Also, this ebbs and flows, right? In fact, if we were to take a look at that just on its own, because right now we're just seeing it in the history of Bitcoin. If I were to show you the PMI over here since the 1948, I mean, it seems pretty clear to me. It's just this ebb and flow, right?
Mhm.
Again and again and again. So when this goes up, it means the expectation that things are getting better and better. So it's an expansionary phase, at least an expectation. And then when it goes down, we're head towards contractionary phases.
So
So
supply management Bitcoin does care about supply management because it will let us know if people have money to buy Bitcoin.
yeah. So remember, the business cycle is overall over the debt cycle, the liquidity cycle, and the inventory cycle. And one of the things that affects liquidity is demand from the regular public, right? Because they're the ones taking out the loans. It's businesses that are taking out loans. They're the ones being affected by interest rates. They are, in a sense, one of the drivers of liquidity. So remember when I was saying that you can get new liquidity if you take out a new $100,000 loan? Well, someone has to take out that loan.
Right.
And that person will only take out that loan if they have an expectation that they'll be able to create more productivity to be able to pay back that loan and make extra money. So they all interplay together. But the reason I was making the distinction with Bitcoin is that Bitcoin doesn't immediately respond to the inventory cycle because that's slow play. It immediately responds to the liquidity cycle. So Bitcoin is actually a leading indicator for employment,
Hmm.
for interest rates, for a bunch of these things versus the other way around. So over here, we're seeing that we're ticking up. Right now, we just passed the 50% mark on this diffusion index for the ISM, which means that we're just ticking now into bullish. Like, if you were to say that this is the bottom of the cycle, which it would have been, right? 22, 23, 24, bottom of the cycle, higher highs, that means we're at the start of the next cycle. Now, how high that goes, we don't know, right? It could go up to here or whatever, but that means we're about halfway to 1/4 of the way through the cycle to begin with.
Is that good news or
So
bad news?
that's good news. The idea there. So if we were to compare this, if I go back here to the chart, Bitcoin, where does Bitcoin bottom? Bitcoin bottoms when we're falling into the recessionary periods of these charts, right? So over here, it starts to fall. So here we're at the start of the cycle, it falls. Over here, this is the low COVID lows. Over here, the bottom, we were falling. But if we're rising here,
Hmm.
then the chances are is that we're rising still. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so don't wait for 44 to buy. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I would not wait for 44. If you get that, great. Or what is it, 40,000 right now? Um, if you get that, great. Unless you think this is rolling over, that we're going to roll over. But you sort of don't want to make a bet like that because you're looking at what the numbers say. And then the final thing I want to show there's actually a bunch of things I could show for this, but I want to be too long winded. I know I said I wanted to be short, but here we are. If I take a look at our volume weighted trend, and I switch this to the monthly, this is one of the indicators people are going to have within the Sacred Profit library. You can see here that we get the downdraft in these cycles usually when we get the second lower high after. So the trend is green, turns yellow, and then turns red, then goes up to a second lower high, and then we get red again. Actually, it doesn't have to be a lower high, but it does have to be a second red. So like over here, we only got one, which is our dip. We moved up. Here we got one dip, moved up. Here we got one, but here at the cycle top over here, we got one. It turned green for a second and then red again. Over here, the double top that we had in the 2021, we had it down, but liquidity was still headed up. So liquidity was still headed up. So we moved back up. And then it's only when it started to roll over that we headed down here. And we got a red and then a second red, lower high, and then we fell. Here was a scary one. We got red twice, but this one was a higher high. This red area over here was a higher high versus that one. But we could easily have seen even a deeper dip, but we didn't. We got an increase of liquidity, and then here again. Actually, this was a lower high. I got to take a look at these guys again. What I want to pay attention to here is that in general, liquidity is moving up and to the right. We're moving sideways or up and to the right. It's when we're moving downwards that it's a problem, and we're not moving downwards. So here I would be looking for a bounce up to a lower high before I even worried about a full drop below.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that was my pitch there. So I just wanted to put that out there that just because the strategic Bitcoin reserve was mentioned, approved, signed into being, doesn't mean all of a sudden liquidity is going to be injected within the system and Bitcoin is going to go to the moon. Notwithstanding, I don't even understand why anyone wants a strategic reserve. Why do you want more Bitcoins off the table? People actually, it's like burning Bitcoin. Hey, we can have more off the table and ours will go up. It's like, I don't even understand. I don't even get why people want that. First, I
Because
thought
then
it's
they can
infinitely
sell their
divisible.
Bitcoin.
What do you care? And if it's going to go up in price because there's nothing left for other people, that's
How
like,
how
let
can
me
there not?
buy all the comic books and destroy 10 of them so that the 11th one is worth more. Like, I don't get it.
Well, I mean, it doesn't limit people's access to Bitcoin, like you say. It's fractional Bitcoin can be purchased. So what difference does it make how many there are?
I just don't. They're like really happy that the idea that governments will hold Bitcoin and not sell it. It's the whole Michael Saylor idea. We won't sell any. I don't get it.
You should listen to
Anyways,
more Michael Saylor.
I listen to a lot of Saylor. I want to believe. I want to be wholeheartedly a believer. I just don't. When people have laser eyes, I just sort of find it hard to take them seriously.
I like Laser Eyes. I like Michael Saylor. I like Max Kaiser. I like Bitcoin.
But
Uh,
isn't laser eyes like a play on The Boys, where the leader guy will brook no naysayers and will kill everybody?
yep. And I
Yeah.
love the boys too.
And isn't that guy a Nazi? I thought that guy was a Nazi in The Boys.
I did not see that in the
Oh,
show.
you didn't see The Boys?
No, I've seen it, but I don't remember anything about. Is he a white supremacist? No, he's a mutant supremacist.
No. Remember Stormfront and the whole Nazi movement and the white supremacy movement?
Yeah, but he isn't. He's all about him and his power and people like him. He disrespects it. He doesn't even respect the people who are screaming on the streets.
Okay, so he's a Nazi in a different way.
All right, we're
It's just
going off. Okay, already the algorithms are gonna dock us. Now we're talking about Nazism.
I'm anti-Nazi. You get docked, docked by the algorithm because of that. I'm against it. I'm not sure if I said that. Or not.
I'm not even sure what we're supposed to be these days. Do we applaud them? Do we not applaud them?
All right, so we'll leave it there. Next story. Let's see if I can do this short. That was 37 minutes. We're gonna have to cut that down. I mean you.
There's a lot of bits that I'm going to be cutting out of that.
I want to talk about here the idea of and it's something been toying around. I don't have a final opinion on it, but it's been racking around in my brain. So Kem Carson, someone I listen to a lot, who talks about the idea of the importance of flows within the market and market positioning as far as making decisions in the market, has been comparing our current time to the 70s, the inflation in the 70s, the populism of the 70s, that sort of thing.
Was
And
that a good time?
sorry.
Was that a good time, or did it lead to good times? What was the 70s?
The stock market went up 20% on the years where there was an election, and every other time it was flat or down. So on net, if you were exposed to the stock market during that entire period without ever selling, you were like down some significant portion. But there was growth within the economy because the inflation was caused by the baby boomers, who are much more numerous than who were before the baby boomers, the silent generation, much more numerous than the generation before them. Yeah, it was the silent generation. I'm not sure. And so they were just kept buying a bunch of things, right? They had to buy more houses, they had to buy more things. They all entered into the workforce. It would cause a huge amount of inflation, and then you had like disturbances abroad, with Russia, with China, and that sort of thing that caused turmoil and blah blah blah. But what I keep thinking is that we're in the fourth turning. We're clearly in the fourth turning. Neil Howe and William Strauss dead on. That we're in the fourth turning, and the fourth turning is one of the things characterized is by the setting up of new institutional systems that'll take over now for the next 80 years at least, or whatever. And it is very hard to see what's going on with crypto and AI and robotics, but crypto in particular, and not go, how is this not part of the new economic system that we're going to live with?
Impossible.
Like, people forget there are people alive today that remember paying for things with gold. Like, people think this is 500 years ago. It's 1971 that the United States went off the gold standard, and then it was off to the races. And the new debt-driven system, where you didn't have your currency backed by gold, claimable gold, even though there was all kinds of shenanigans, like they went off the system because, like, oh, we can't lie anymore. I forget which country. I think it was France or whatever. They're like, hey, we want to redeem our US dollars for gold. Let's go ahead. And they're like, how about we invade you or not? Let's just get off the gold, and we're going to leave this whole looking for gold thing off to the side.
Wait, did you say you wanted us to invade you? Wait, what? I'm sorry.
Sounds like
Did
you're
I?
saying,
It sounds like.
sounds like you're saying you don't want to be a country anymore. Excuse me? No, that's fine. It's fine. Just give me the interest payments. And so it's hard to not to see echoes of that happening right now. So to me, I'm almost starting to see crypto, Bitcoin, as the currency's currency. Like how currency was reflected of gold, instead of Bitcoin being a replacement for the our currency, what if it's a new like cryptocurrency is the currency of currencies? Does that make sense to you?
No.
Like the reason we wanted currencies was to be able to redeem in gold,
Is that the
right?
reason we wanted currency? No, we wanted an easier way
No,
to transact.
no. Currencies are IOUs, and you would go to the bank, you would get your gold.
Yeah, I know, but because you didn't want to be walking around with your gold.
Right, they're representative of the gold.
Yeah, it was an easier way to
Yes,
transact.
yeah, it was a contract. It was an IOU.
Mhm.
Now we've moved because we're off the gold standard. Now the currency is itself the money.
Right. Or the faith in the and trust in the government is the money.
Right, the fiat. Faith, enforcement, it's one of those two. I have faith that they'll enforce it. Hey, we found it. We found it. And so maybe it's not that cryptocurrency is going to replace our currency right now, but that it's going to be used as the thing that's the more currency than currency.
Well, didn't Kathy Wood talk about it as like the internet's money? Like there's a whole new market online where physical cash and
Doesn't make
gold
any sense.
doesn't
Yeah,
make any sense. And
that's
that
right.
she said there was always this missing, or she was told by, I don't know who her mentor was, that there was this missing piece to the internet puzzle, which was transacting. And that's what crypto is. And then on top of that, that'll be amplified by AI, who definitely need expedient, fast, easy ways to settle
Well,
transactions.
I don't think it's a missing piece. I think it will be a replacement, but as its own thing. So, for example, what the problems that currency solved over gold was not being able to carry it around. People could steal it from you. The inventory cost of holding gold, insurance, the ease of being able to transact, and then we move towards credit cards and debit cards or whatever, and that gave us even more flexibility. But then we have a major problem with the currency now, which is that we cannot. There's no transparency to it.
Right.
There's no transparency whatsoever. And so you can imagine that in this catalyst of transparency within the fourth turning, that will demand that, and that we would want the activities of our governments and institutions or what have you to be on a blockchain, to be at least ostensibly auditable and transparent. And what you get in exchange for that is a deflationary currency that goes up in value as you hold it, right? So the idea is like, hey, you want transparency in everything I'm doing? Yeah, but you'll make trillions of dollars. Oh, trillions of dollars. But then I have to think of a whole new way of doing corruption. Yeah. Just think of a whole new way of doing it. Okay. Okay. So now that their hand is forced because the debt system has gone to the point where refinancing it is like the refinancing on the debt is higher than in the United States, higher than the military spending, which is gulp, not good.
People say
Last,
that, they keep saying it like, oh, the interest payments is greater than the war budget, and it's like saying, oh, there's an asteroid heading towards Earth. Like
that's right.
people just go, oh, there's an asteroid heading towards Earth,
Yeah, heading towards.
cause immense
Oh, you mean
devastation.
like for sure guaranteed it's going to cause massive disruption and death and poverty to millions and billions of people? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And this is coming. I mean, as sure as the day is long, we know it's coming. Literally, it's part of the system. It's how it works. Hey, you
Absolutely.
ever had a credit card where you use another credit card in order to pay off the debt off the one credit card, and then you have another credit card to pay off the debt on that credit card? You ever do that again and again and again? You know how good that feels? You know how that always turns into a great thing afterwards?
And
So
then
it's
they
just
lived happily
right.
ever after.
Right. But the idea that cryptocurrency comes in as a savior, as a currency plus currency 2.0, makes total sense, and then we get all these extra benefits, and then all these new ways of corruption, which is great. New ways of corruption means new types of oligarchs, means new types of things to complain about in the next fourth turning. And so, and then with AI and robotics, it makes me feel that this age of potential stagflation that we'll have, let's call it 10, 15 years, I'm not convinced that we have it. I'm not convinced that we have the same sort of stagflation that we had in the 70s.
Well, we have all this
Because
hidden productivity
that's right,
and looming productivity,
right.
and
That
we're not
we're all
proper.
seeing it.
Yeah, and we're not properly. We don't have the proper numbers for our society. We don't actually see. Talk about transparency. I don't think we actually see the economy for what it actually is. There's all these hidden areas.
Well, it's the way that we use the word growth. So if we were to have this stagflationary period, it would be characterized by rising prices, greater discrepancy between the rich and the poor, and harder to get ahead and that sort of thing. And we saw that from 2008 till 2022, 2023. Like we saw that. We had that. That's the millennial life. That's the inflationary period. What we see now, and what I see everywhere, is that it feels like, I don't know if you're seeing this, it feels like to me, every person now, every other person could start a new thing.
You can just do things.
You can just do stuff. Like, even before the AI stuff, it was sort of like, well, if I wanted to start my own, they call them influencers, but if I wanted to create a new entertainment thing or educational thing or what, like, you could do it and make a living potentially. The Patreons of the world, um, the rev share from Google and all this stuff, the Twitch primes, the okay, there are ways of doing that, and then you would see all kinds of things like people making whole businesses out of cake toppers and wooden squirrel figurines and you're like, and Etsy shops, and you're like, okay, there are ways of people to do this where it wasn't like that 2011, right?
Hmm.
And now you add on top of that AI, and it's like my problem is like narrowing things down to what I want to try.
Yeah.
So I don't know about how other people feel, but it feels like there's more opportunity now than I ever could ever have imagined. Even when I was in school, these are the most amount of opportunity
But that's
ever.
only true for people who are entrepreneur. They have the entrepreneurial spirit.
We
Otherwise,
work right
if
now
you,
with Traders Post,
yeah,
right? Which is a company that previously would have needed 200 people
I was thinking about that. Yeah,
and two offices in order to do what they're doing. That's not the case. We're in Canada, and you're far deep into Canada. You're not even anywhere close to regular people. So
I escaped the city. Yeah, I was thinking my job, what I do, either would have taken way longer to do, or I'd need like 3, 4 people to do it. And now I can just bang, 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 do it all myself. I
do it.
can't even believe the things that I can do on my own.
Right.
Never would I do this job without AI. Never. It'd just be absolutely mind numbing,
I have an
disgusting.
album on Spotify. What?
Oh, yeah, I'm making music too. Yeah, it's really crazy.
So it just feels like I don't think it's just for a few. I think a lot of people. Our mom is using it for Bible studies and Bible sermons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was in church with her the other day, and she pulls out. She says this whole beautiful speech. Beautiful. People were like, "Oh my God, God is inspiring her." And she comes down, sits down in the pew next to me, and she goes, "Did you like that?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "AI wrote that." I was like, "What?" Yeah, use AI to help me. I was like, unbelievable. And so to me, I mean, if this to me is not like the stories we had of the Industrial Revolution, where the farmers came and they were sitting in garbage or whatever. They, no need for, they couldn't fight for a job because there's always someone 3 years younger and who will do it for a nickel less. Like it doesn't feel like that now. Now we do have 29% unemployment rate if you calculate it based on the rates that we had before.
I think the have and have nots are going to be separated now by those who have uh, ambition, inspiration, motivation versus people who have been zombified. Because here's the thing: society does create zombies. Like it perpetuates this virus. Like you don't. There are people who are really motivated to do things, and there are other people. It's never been easier to find a way not to do stuff.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know what the future is going to hold. I don't think. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. But I think the division is always there. It's just what's being divided now. It's kind of changing.
Yeah. So we'll see. So I think because it's fourth turning, it changes the dynamics of things that you would have seen before. Whatever is going to happen has to be, in a sense, unexpected by large masses of people and forced because of popular circumstances. So let's see how that turns in. But I literally don't see how crypto is not an underpinning underneath all this sort of thing. So we'll see.
So what was the topic for this segment?
That the one of the tailwinds for crypto is that we're in the fourth turning. It's another reason why I think the cycle low is nowhere close and that we're headed towards really all-time highs because the fourth turning is a catalyst for the adoption of new technology and institutions.
How important do you think it is for people to understand what the fourth turning is? Like,
Oh my
if somebody
god, it's winter is coming. Winter's here. It blows my mind, Peter, that we've watched movie after movie, TV show after TV show, fantasy book after fantasy book, all describing the type of phenomenon we're talking about. A time where
crisis.
bad times require strong men and the whole thing. And we just sit around. People just sit around, and you're like, you're in that right now. You're in the Maze Runner. You're in time. You're Justin Timberlake. Your time is ticking down. You're in Allegiance. You're in it. Don't you see? You're in it. I don't know. It's in it. So to me, it's so important because not because I think that if people aren't aware, they're not going to be able to make the choices. It's sort of like, things are going to happen. That's going to happen. But the profit that can be made, both intellectually, economically, purposefully, the profit that can be made is unbelievable. Like these are the times where generational wealth can be made, where someone looks back, oh yeah, my daddy did this thing at the time, and now my family, now 3 generations down, are like hobnobbing with the Rockefellers and the Clintons or whoever is going to be around at the time. I'm glowing. Is this God? Is this God blessing me? Is this my aura?
Yeah, I think it is.
Feels kind of aura-ish. Wait, I'm going to goose it up a little bit. Wait, I'm going to goose it up a little bit. Wow, there. Oh, more?
Gross.
All right. A little bit better.
How did you do that?
I turn off the light.
Okay, well,
I don't know how bright I was. Should I leave it bright to make it consistent in the videos?
it's up to you. Doesn't look good both ways.
All right. Last topic. It's not going to be long. It's a plea. I'm down on my knees right now. I'm just very tall, but I'm down on my knees right now. And it's a plea to the Cardano community. Cardano. I get it. It felt really exciting for a little bit that the glass slipper, I mean, it was slipping onto our feet. King
You're talking
Shark was
about
just
the tweet?
sliding and named us over the more beautiful sisters. It felt good. I'll admit, it felt good. Cardano up higher than the Solana, higher than everything. People are like, woo, who's this new Cardano girl? Who's this Ada girl on the block? Dude, what's going on? Why Ada is going to get to $25 in the next 3 months? All kinds of stuff like this. I totally understand.
It's like Stark is next to Robert Baratheon on his deathbed, and Baratheon is going, "I bequeath everything to Joffrey," and Stark writes, "Heir." I'm just gonna keep it a little fuzzy. Maybe it's Joffrey, maybe it's not.
The thing is that we were never the number go up community.
Right.
Not overtly anyway. Like we do understand that number go up is important. It's one of the adoption mechanisms for crypto. We understand that. But above that, above more, we wanted the cohesiveness of the community, demonstrating governance, developing new technologies, and really actually being something that could underpin the institutions of the future. And I don't think it's a grandiose claim, and that Charles makes that Cardano actually could be one of those systems because it does take a decade to make. And you're not going to look me in the eyes. You're not going to look me in the eyes and tell me that Solana, that you want to wake up and go, like, all my money is in Solana. My bank's running on Solana. Your bank switches and goes, we're using Solana system. And you're like, yeah, please.
The way I
Same thing
see
with Doge, same thing with XRP, same thing with all these different things. Well, I mean, I like a lot of these systems. Hedera, I like EOS, I like these systems. But Cardano, we decided, hey, we want this to be, I mean, formal verification, papers up the wazoo, all the joys of UTXO, liquid staking, the whole thing. TPS, like TPS, who cares about TPS? We're bundling hundreds to thousands of transactions within one transaction. Catch me outside, bro. That was the whole thing with Cardano. That we're the master race. I'm going to say it. We're the master race of cryptocurrencies, and let's not lose sight of that. And so Charles was not invited to the crypto summit, the White House summit.
look. I
He
don't.
wasn't invited
Can
to
you imagine?
Davos. Fine.
Can you imagine that you invite Charles? It's like inviting the smart person who knows it all to your meeting. It's just going to make everybody else look like I don't want to be sitting next to Charles while he's talking sense, and me. I don't want to be showed up. I don't want to have. I want everybody to be on the same team. I don't want some heretic over here who's not 100% Bitcoin, not 100% behind all this to like cause trouble in this summit. I don't need this guy there. We need just the team players.
Well, to me, Charles Hoskinson is Donald Trump from like 2016, like in the way that he shifted, right? Remember Donald Trump in 2016 said a bunch of like even the opposite things that he's saying right now. But he didn't care. He just said what needed to be said. That was his appeal. Said what needed to be said, and you're like, hey, Jesus Christ, what's going on? And Charles was like that, and he rubbed people the wrong way, and I like that about him because what happened is that didn't change his conviction level or how much they were working on the tool. Like it didn't take a hit. And every time I saw Cardano at the lows, I go, it'd be hard for this to get much lower than this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no hype. There's no hype. And so every price increase was a price increase from like no hype whatsoever. And so when we get the spike because of the announcement of the reserve, I was like, oh, if this caused, let's say this caused Cardano to get to $3 right now, I'd be like, ah, man, now I got to sit with potentially this is going to drop 80% at any given point or whatever.
And it'll
But then he
draw
was
in the
invited
wrong
to the
people.
thing. Sorry?
It'll bring in the wrong people. Suddenly,
It'll bring in
Cardano.
leverage.
No, I just
And
mean
then,
it'll bring in the zombies, the number grow up crowd.
right. But just that alone is not the problem. The problem is when there's leverage within the market. So then when there's a deleveraging event,
Right.
then you get this whole sell off. And let's say, the hype fades and that sells off too. Then the people who are actually believers, they might be discouraged
Right.
because they were anchored at this higher dollar point and now it's lower. So I didn't want that for the community. And we got a little toasted, we got a little sauced at the party. And I wanted us to remember that, hey, this was just a sign that, but for anyone arguing against Cardano, the president tweeted about us. But for anyone whispering in his ear that, hey, we shouldn't be at the table, we were at the table because we're so big and so powerful and we've been around for so long that we were unignorable when Donald Trump was just being the one who tweets out.
That is
And
incredible. I mean, it's absolute. When I heard David Sachs say, "Oh, Donald Trump named the top 5
right,
crypto by market cap," I was like, "Wait, Cardano's in the top 5?
that's right,
Cardano is in the same breath as Solana?
that's right.
It
Solana, Ethereum,
Unbelievable.
Bitcoin, XRP, and Cardano.
It's like watching Donald Trump in the primaries in 2016, and people are dropping off, and there is still Trump. You're like, wait, Trump is
Right.
still
What?
in
Yeah,
this? I don't get
exactly.
it. This is
Oh,
crazy.
it's worse. It's to me, it's more like the Ron Paul because people. I was looking online. People were like, "What's ADA?
Hmm.
What's ADA?" And people were looking around, looking around. What the hell is this? And it's like, yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's
I see
we were having our
Cardano. Go ahead.
shoes all that moment, and
She's
Freddie Prinze Jr. was we didn't know that he was playing a prank on us. But that doesn't mean that we're still not hot. Glasses or no glasses doesn't mean we're not hot. We still got
I
value.
I see Cardano kind of like the ARM chip. All right, there you go. You got Apple chugging along with Intel, systems overheating, all kinds of problems, and then 10, 15, 20 years down the line, they go, you know what? This Intel thing is a pain in the butt. This ARM chip's been around as long as Intel. It performs better and stays super cool. I think what's going to happen now is they're going to set up the system with Bitcoin and Solana and all that stuff, and it'll work. People will use their Intel machines, and the fans will be whirring like crazy. And then one day somebody's going to go, wait, this Cardano thing, pop it in. Oh my God, this works
Yeah,
way better than I ever imagined,
okay.
and Intel will still be out there, but then you'll have the ARM chip revolutionizing everything. Look, slow and steady wins the race. Look, we know this story. I remember hearing this story when I was a kid, right? The tortoise and the hare. And for the life of me, especially in the crypto world, I don't know about especially, but I hear it a lot, is they're all for the hare. Speed, speed, fast, fast. You're like, did you not learn the lesson that you have to do it right the first time, like build it strong, do all the right things? That's the smart way to do it. They're like, no adoption. There's no hype, there's no excitement around it. Like you've said before, those are the types of things that make me sus on these other projects and make me more confident about Cardano.
That's right.
Now, you don't have to play only the Cardano game. If you want the number go up game, do the number go up game.
That's right.
Do both of
Play
them.
the number go up game if that's what you want.
Why
Absolutely.
would you look at you're like, I want all the hot chicks. Why don't you at least value the nerdy chick? The girl you think is not attractive. Like, why don't you at least value her? Because these other hot chicks, they will betray you. Okay,
They will.
they will betray you. And then the nerdy chick, she's like, stable, reliable. I don't know.
At the end of traders, you got to be able to stand there at the end and look the other person in the eye and go, "I think you're a faithful."
I think you're faithful. That's right.
Right.
Exactly. And can you be around the table with these other degens and be like, I trust them? No, I trust the person who eschewed number go up, not because they didn't care about it, but because they prioritized quality above all else.
That's right.
Like, that's the thing I trust the most. And I don't have to choose. I own Solana, I own Bitcoin, I own Doge,
ETH. Yeah.
ETH, like you own these things, and I own Cardano. Now, am I overly proportioned for Cardano? Yeah, I am, because I don't ever fear waking up in the morning and hearing Cardano has
Some
tanked or
major
rug pull or
flaw.
some major
Yeah.
flaw or whatever. It's never gone down. If you listen to Charles speak, I know he's not in control of Cardano anymore, but he inspired this as well as the community. If you hear him speak, I don't understand how you can hear him speak and be like, he's a grifter scammer. But then you can hear Michael Saylor speak
I
and
know.
be like, and Max Kaiser, and you're like, oh, I totally
Right.
trust these guys.
Pompliano, the whole
I
thing. Yeah.
I like Michael Saylor. I like Max
Yeah.
Kaiser. I just don't understand how people can listen to Charles and be like, he's ridiculous, and listen to these
Yeah.
other people and trust them. It's the same. Look, you probably voted for Kamala. I said it. I said it. You're like, word salad. I don't hear any word salad. She's a boss babe. Okay. I'm kidding. Okay.
It's like
I'm
when
just
people were like, Ron Paul's a racist. What?
Elon's a Nazi.
What are you talking
Have
about?
you heard them
Ron
speak?
Paul's a racist? I
Yeah.
don't need to hear him speak. He's a racist.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's
All
crazy
right.
to me. So
You
yeah,
want to change an entire generation? I don't know. A bunch of us are walking around, and you're like, "Hey, why does this person really like a?" Oh, turns out Charles is a Ron Paul person. Why does Dave Smith? Oh, turns out he's a Ron Paul person. Hey, why is oh, he's a Ron Paul person? How'd you get those ideas? Oh, Ron Paul. Yeah, change
yeah.
the
So
generation.
people, there's like a lot of war. I think okay. What one thing that I like that Charles did recently, he went on his spiritual retreat. Remember, he went on
Yep.
a journey, not the
With
cave, but
Kenny.
I think he went anyway some retreat, and he came back changed. He came back and he stopped being this stick up his butt like I'm better. He wasn't really doing that, but he had this kind of air that he was antagonistic against these other projects, and he
He
came back
was.
going. Yeah, and he came back. He was like, "Make peace. That's what I want. That's the Charles that I like, and that's the method we there's value in everything that people are doing, and we're going to come together. And how can Cardano help Bitcoin? How can Cardano help Solana? How can Cardano help XRP? That type of Cardano, I think, if you were betting against Cardano and Charles before because of that attitude and that thing, I totally get it. It's gone now. And I
Mhm.
think we smoke in peace pipe is where we are right now. And this is the way to success. And the fact that Donald Trump mentioned it, I mean, when they start buying, do you think they'll buy the top 5?
I don't think it matters.
Yeah, I
I
know,
think
but
if they only bought Bitcoin, it would cause these other ones to be bought.
yeah, okay. So, we're still there, still at the
But
top.
Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, he said it on CNBC. They're like, "Okay, it's just to be Bitcoin." He said, no, it's a crypto reserve. We're gonna buy all of them.
Good.
That's
So,
what he said.
if you're in Cardano land and you were bummed, I was a little bummed that Charles wasn't invited to the summit. No need to feel that way. In fact, it's a badge of honor.
That's right.
It's a sign that, "Oh, did you hear Charles? He tweeted out, 'I will never kiss the ring.'"
Did he?
Yes. Say that. There's so few things that people need to say for me to trust them. I don't know. I was wrong. And F the power. Like, come on. Like, what else do you want? Like, wasn't crypto here to change the system? Do you think that people who benefit from the system want it to change? So you're gonna need a wrecking ball to come in on some level to destroy things. And that wrecking ball is not gonna look homogeneous 100% with what was there before. And so the fact that Charles is oil and these people are water and not mixing, I go, that's great. That means Charles has changed, but not so much that he's like, we have to be worried about the guy. And I think we're in the best case scenario for Cardano. I think we are in the absolute best timeline. And now, with the price, it's at 73 cents right now. Oh, just buy, buy. I'm so
I'm
excited to
driving
be
every
in
week.
Cardano.
It's like,
Oh, yeah,
okay, let's play some
absolutely.
more. Yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah. All right. Well, that's it for the right moves for March 9th. Our birthday's coming up, Peter. It's coming up
Yeah,
soon.
yeah.
Pretty excited. And by
For your
excited, I
birthday?
mean like I don't care one bit, a little bit at all. If my calendar didn't remind me it was my birthday, I wouldn't know.
That's right.
But we'll be back next Sunday with more right moves. Now we're gonna head over
Oh,
to
wait, just before you did that, you said,
yes,
wait, is it on this show that you say what the trade is? What your signal? No, that's
that's Sunday Fuel. That's next.
all right. If you want to find
If
out
you want to find out where Bitcoin's gonna go,
and what to
because
do,
I was not surprised by this drop.
called it all.
Just calling
You gotta
calling
check
it.
out. You gotta check out this guy's X account, man. This guy is calling. I kept telling Tom, it's not enough to make these predictions by yourself. You gotta put it out there. And he's like, and you're nailing them. You're nailing
Okay.
them.
All right. Well, thank you, folks. I will be back next week. Wait, again in 5 minutes, and then next week.
That's right.